a Wikividi Documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Joan Armatrading. Joan Anita Barbara Armatrading, MBE, is a British singer-songwriter and guitarist. A three-time Grammy Award nominee, Armatrading has also been nominated twice for Brit Awards as Best Female Artist. She also received an Ivor Novello Award for Outstanding Contemporary Song Collection in 1996. In a recording career spanning 40 years, Armatrading has released 18 studio albums, as well as several live albums and compilations. Early life. Joan Armatrading was born in 1950 in Basseterre on the Caribbean island of St. Kitts, the third of 6 children. Her father was a carpenter, and her mother was a housewife. When she was 3 years old, her parents moved with their 2 eldest boys to Birmingham, England, while Joan was sent to live with her grandmother on the Caribbean island of Antigua. In early 1958, at the age of 7, she joined her parents in Brookfields, then a district of Birmingham. The area is now mostly demolished and has been absorbed into the district of Hockley. Her father had played in a band in his youth, later forbidding his children from touching his guitar. At about the age of 14, Armatrading began writing songs by setting her own limericks to music on a piano that her mother had purchased as a piece of furniture. Shortly thereafter, her mother bought her a £3 guitar from a pawn shop in exchange for 2 prams, and the younger Armatrading began teaching herself the instrument. Armatrading left school at the age of 15 to support her family, and her first job was at Rabone Chesterman, an engineering tool manufacturer in Hockley, Birmingham. She lost the job after taking her guitar to work and playing it during tea breaks. Late 1960s and 1970s. Armatrading first performed in a concert at Birmingham University for her brother at the age of about 16. She only knew her own songs, but her brother asked her to perform something that would be familiar to the audience. She chose The Sound of Silence. She then performed her own songs around the local area with a friend from school, and played bass and rhythm guitar at local clubs. In 1968, Armatrading joined a repertory production of the stage musical Hair. There she met the lyricist Pam Nestor in 1970, and they worked together on Armatrading's debut album Tevez for Us, released by Cube Records in 1972. Nestor wrote the lyrics to 11 of the 14 songs on the album, while Armatrading wrote the lyrics to 3 of them, performed all the vocals, wrote all the music, and played an array of instruments on the album. Although Nestor was credited as co-lyricist, Cube considered Armatrading to be the more likely star material. These events produced a tension that broke up the partnership. On the 28th of November 1972, Armatrading appeared on the BBC Radio 1 John Peel show performing Head of the Table, Spend a Little Time, Child Star, and Whatever's for Us. She sang and played acoustic guitar and piano. In 1973, Armatrading's first single, Lonely Lady, a song that had not been included on the album, was released by Cube on the Fly label. It was unsuccessful in the charts, and a period of inactivity for Armatrading followed while she extricated herself from her contract with Cube Records. The single was subsequently withdrawn by Cube and re-released as a promotional single in the US by Armatrading's new label A&M Records the same year. In January 1974, she appeared again on The John Peel Show, performing Some Sort of Love Song, Lonely Lady, and Freedom. She again sang and played acoustic guitar and piano, but was accompanied by supporting musicians Snowy White, Mike Tomic, and Brian Glasscock. In 1975, Armatrading was free to sign with A&M Records, and issued the album Back to the Night, which was promoted on tour with 6-piece jazz pop group The Movies. Armatrading credited English singer Elkie Brooks on the sleeve notes as she had cooked for Armatrading and the band in the studio while they had been making the album, which was produced by Brooks's then-husband Pete Gage. A major publicity relaunch in 1976 and the involvement of producer Glyn Johns propelled her next album, Joan Armatrading, into the top 20 and spawned the top 10 hit single, Love and Affection. The album mixed acoustic work with jazz-influenced material, and this style was retained for the 1977 follow-up Show Some Emotion, also produced by Glyn Johns, as was 1978's To the Limit. These albums included songs which continue to be staples of Armat Rading's live shows, including Willow, Down to Zero, Tall in the Saddle, and Kissin' and a Huggin'. Also at this time, Armat Rading wrote and performed The Flight of the Wild Geese, which was used during the opening and end titles for the 1978 war film The Wild Geese. The song was included on the soundtrack album for the film, originally released by A&M Records, later released under license as a Cinephile DVD. A live album entitled Stepping Out was released in 1979. Between 1972 and 1976, Armat Rading made a total of 8 appearances in session for The John Peel Show, and the decade saw her become the first black British female singer/songwriter to enjoy international success. Armat Rading was the musical guest for Season 2, Episode 21 of NBC's Saturday Night Live, which originally aired on the 14th of May 1977. She performed Love and Affection and Down to Zero. 1980s and 1990s. In 1980, Armat Rading radically revised her playing style and released Me Myself I, a harder pop-oriented album produced by Richard Gotterer, who had previously produced albums for Blondie. The album became Armat Rading's highest-ever charting album both in the UK and the US, while the title track became her second UK Top 40 hit single. In that year, she performed on Rock Blast Night. The same pop style as on her previous album, now coupled with synthesizers, was also evident on the 1981 album Walk Under Ladders and 1983's The Key. All 3 of these albums were top 10 successes in the UK, with The Key also producing the hit single, Drop the Pilot, Armat Rading's third UK Top 40 hit single. To capitalize on her success, A&M released the Best of compilation album, track record in 1983. Armat Rading performed in 1985 at a sold-out concert at the Red Rocks Amphitheatre in Denver, and another concert in Arizona with Cook the Books. That year she released her next album, Secret Secrets. The album was a top 20 hit, but failed to yield any hit singles, cementing Armat Rading's status as an album artist. Taking over production responsibilities herself, she recorded the album Sleight of Hand, The Shouting Stage and Hearts and Flowers for A&M Records, which all made the UK Top 40, but failed to achieve the level of commercial success of her earlier works despite successful national tours. In 1989 she was the guest of Sue Lawley on the BBC Radio 4 radio programme Desert Island Discs, where her favourite choice was Van Morrison's Madame George. Armat Rading's full list included Ella Fitzgerald and Gustav Mahler. Her luxury item was a guitar, while her Castaways book was Why Didn't They Ask Evans? By Agatha Christie. In 1991, A&M released the compilation The Very Best of Joan Armat Rading, which returned her to the top 10. However, her following studio album for A&M, 1992's Square the Circle, did not replicate this success and would be her final recording for the label. Following her departure from A&M, a label she had been with for almost 20 years, Armat Rading signed with RCA for her 1995 album What's Inside. Despite various television appearances and a full tour, the album was not a commercial success, becoming her lowest charting studio album in 20 years. In December 1998, she released Lullabies with a Difference, an album of lullabies contributed by her and several of her favorite artists, in honor of PACES, a charity for children with cerebral palsy. Later work. In 2003, no longer attached to a major label, she released the album Lovers Speak. Though it was her first album in 8 years, it met with little commercial success. In 2004, she released a live album, Live, All the Way from America, which was a recording of a concert from her Lovers Speak tour. Her 2007 album Into the Blues debuted on the US Billboard Blues chart, making Armat Rading the first UK female artist to earn that distinction. Into the Blues, which Armat Rading called the CD I've been promising myself to write for a long time, was nominated for a Grammy Award, also making her the first female UK artist to be nominated in the Grammy Blues category. In 2007, Armat Rading appeared in episode 3 of the second series of Live from Abbey Road performing Tall in the Saddle, from her 1976 self-titled album, and Woman in Love, from the album Into the Blues. She also appeared on Later, with Jools Holland, where she performed Love and Affection, as well as Woman in Love, and My Baby's Gone, both from her 2007 Into the Blues album. In 2008 she was part of Cyndi Lauper's True Colors Tour 2008. On the 29th of March 2010 she released a new album, This Charming Life. The album peaked on the US Billboard Folk Albums chart. She embarked on an international tour to promote it, and a concert from this tour in April 2010 at the Royal Albert Hall in London was released on the CD/DVD album Live at the Royal Albert Hall, along with 2 tracks from a concert in Denver, Colorado, US, in February 2011. In 2012, she released the album Starlight. Armour Trading has always supported new music and local talent. For her 2012 Starlight tour she invited 56 singer-songwriters/artists to open for her in their respective hometowns before her main tour support Chris Wood. Each of the artists opening for her across the UK also had a track selected for a 3-disc compilation released by her record label Hypertension Music. She presented Armour Trading Singer-Songwriters, a 2-part radio series showcasing these artists, which was broadcast on BBC Radio 2 in February 2013. On the 7th of October 2013, Armour Trading announced on her website that she would be embarking on her last major tour, to be combined with her first solo tour of intimate concerts, featuring just herself playing and singing. She released a CD/DVD album from the tour, entitled Me Myself I World Tour, in 2016. In 2016, Armour Trading was commissioned by director Phyllida Lloyd and the Donmar Warehouse to write the music to an all-female production of William Shakespeare's The Tempest. Armour Trading released an accompanying digital album, The Tempest Songs. Appearances and other media. In addition to recording, Armour Trading has toured extensively and appeared in high-profile concerts such as The Picnic at Blackbush in 1978 and the Prince's Trust Rock Gala in 1983. She also appeared in the film The Secret Policeman's Third Ball in 1987. She has also made many appearances on television, including The Old Grey Whistle Test in 1975, Joan Armour Trading, Rock Over Europe, in 1980, Joan Armour Trading in Concert, in 1982, Late Night in Concert, in 1984, Joan Armour Trading, in 1985 and In Concert, in 1988. Armour Trading presented a 5-part series on BBC Radio 4 called Joan Armour Trading's Favourite Guitarists, which was broadcast in July 2009, in which she talked to guitarists about their music and their technique. She followed this up with another 5-part series called Joan Armour Trading, More Guitar Favourites, which was broadcast in November and December 2011. On the 19th of May 2015, Armour Trading appeared on BBC Two's Later, with Jools Holland, singing Me Myself I. Style. Armour Trading possesses the vocal range of a contralto. Her music draws on a wide range of influences including rock, folk, jazz, blues, soul, and reggae. Her songs have been described as some of the most deeply personal and emotionally naked of our times. In a 2003 interview, she said, "My songs aren't about me at all. They're always about love, the pain and anguish of it. But the way I've always written is from observation. They're about what I see other people going through. If the songs were about me, I'd be so embarrassed I don't think I'd be able to walk out the front door." She went on to say, "The optimistic songs reveal a bit more of me, because that's how I feel. I'm definitely a glass is half full kind of a person." Many of her lyrics do not specify the gender of their subjects, and she frequently uses the word you rather than a gender pronoun. Guitars. Armour Trading performs on both 6 and 12-string acoustic and electric guitars. She has played on Ovation acoustic instruments since 1973, and said this about them in an interview with the magazine Guitar Player: "I'm a bit of a hitter, you see I bash and I like to have everything going at once, bass, harmony, and melody. This is why I love Ovations. They are very powerful sounding guitars, and when I hit those strings, they ring with a nice, clear, percussive, but not overly bright sound that highlights the rhythms I like to play." She has played Stratocaster and Gibson electric guitars. For her 2012-13 tour, she performed on 6 and 12-string Ovations and customized Tom Anderson guitars. Personal life. Armour Trading is reluctant to discuss her personal life in interviews. In a 2003 interview with David Thomas of the Daily Telegraph, she said, in addition to her music career, in 2001, after 5 years of studying, Armour Trading gained a BA degree in history from the Open University, of which she is now a trustee. Between 2005 and 2010, Armour Trading served as president of the Women of the Year lunches. In April 2011, the Shetland News reported that Armour Trading and girlfriend Maggie Butler were to enter a civil partnership on the 2nd of May 2011. In the Shetland Isles. Collaborations. Armour Trading performed as a cameo vocalist for the song "Don't Lose Your Head" on the 1986 Queen album A Kind of Magic. In 1997, she made an appearance on the charity single "Perfect Day." Armour Trading's song "In These Times" from her 2003 album Lovers Speak appeared on the compilation album Songs for Tibet, The Art of Peace, which was released in 2008 by the Art of Peace Foundation. Honours. Armour Trading has been nominated 3 times for a Grammy Award and twice for a Brit Award as Best Female Vocalist. She received an Ivor Novello Award for Outstanding Contemporary Song Collection in 1996. She was received honorary degrees from the Liverpool John Moores University, the University of Birmingham, the University of Northampton, Aston University, the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, and the Open University and the University of the West Indies. She was made a member of the Order of the British Empire in 2001. In October 2011, Armour Trading was presented with a BAFTA Gold Badge Award in recognition of her contribution to music. In May 2012, before her concert at Uttoxeter, as part of the 2012 Acoustic Festival of Britain, she was presented with a Lifetime Achievement Award. In April 2016, she was presented with a Lifetime Achievement Award at the 2016 BBC Radio 2 Folk Awards in recognition of her influence on a generation of singer-songwriters, as one of the outstanding voices in British music since the 1970s. Brought to you by Wikividi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?